Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Tales with TR, episode 141B. Today, my guest played on 15 professional hockey teams over the course of more than a 2-decade-long career. He's scored goals all over the planet and now resides back in Ontario, where he's still loosely involved in the game, co-hosting the Game Sports Show. He was a teammate of mine in 2004 at the World Inline Hockey Championship. We'd capture silver that year, faltering to the USA in overtime in the championship game. But more importantly, we've remained close friends to this day, where he's back for a visit on Tales with TR once again. He is a flashy forward, a speedy skater, a great guy, an interesting Ontarian, a hospitable host, a dapper dad. His knee was once skinned, and he can skate like the wind. In London, we had a blast, and he can skate really fast. He likes milk by the quart, and we call him Brooksy for short. We've got like-minded peers and have tipped back some beers. I like eggs with my toast, and he's a good talk show host. He likes beef ragu and spends time in the Sioux. Oh, my, he's a good-looking guy. Folks, if you like to fish, you like dealing with hooks, and please welcome to the show my pal Brendan Brooks. How are you, Brooksy?
Good. I like that, that's an interesting intro. I've never had something like that before.
Certainly it is, because you deserve it, my friend. Now tell us what you're up to. You're retired for how many years now, and you're living up in Sault Ste. Marie. Am I right? You're co-hosting the game, and what else are you doing?
I'm doing that, and I'm coaching my kids, helping out when I can, and just enjoying the winter down here.
Kids, and how old are your kids?
The twin boys, they're 6.
I see. So coaching must be, that's when you're coaching 6-year-old, there's not many days you leave the rink with a frown on your face.
Oh no, it's pretty wild, and just seeing they're so different, which is amazing to watch, and I see a lot of myself in them, so it's kind of exciting just to see them going through it all.
So are you going to be there when we're shooting Shoresy? I'll be up there in late March.
Yeah, I will be. I'm definitely going to come down and see you down there for sure.
Now this time will be a different flavor because we can move around. It was nice seeing you last time, and but people ask me what I think of Sudbury. I'm like, well, I liked it, and the places that in the show, like I don't know, the Doghouse. I went there for beers, but it was the pandemic. There wasn't much on the go, and it was only 50%. You couldn't really get up and dance, whatever those rules were. I don't want to revisit them even mentally, but it was a different flavor. So now this time, and it's going to be, we'll be there in May, so I'd say the weather will be a little bit better.
Yeah, we'll have to live it up. We got to make up for the last year, so.
I want to come down there too. I've only gone out in the Sioux a couple times, and you weren't there, but I had a good time. So I plan on. We're not shooting every single day either, right? Like Sioux's not that far, is it? Like how far to Sudbury?
Sioux's about 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
Okay, so well doable. I wouldn't mind. Taking it all in. I don't know whatever the locals do. I want to check out. I'm not a hunter per se, but I don't know. I hear there's a lot of hunting in the area. I might want to go on and maybe piggyback one of those journeys.
There's lots to do. Like a lot of people here do a lot of hiking and snowshoeing and
snowshoeing.
All kinds of stuff like
I'd love
that.
to go snowshoeing.
So it's big. Yeah, I could take you there. I could take you on a few trails that I've learned over the years.
That would be perfect. I'm a wuss of a hunter. I've never actually shot anything. I don't know if I could. I'm not being a hypocrite from the point of view that I wouldn't eat an animal. I'm just saying it's hard for me to look. I don't know. There's moose here. We had, I eat it. I buy it from my friends or accept it as gifts. I love moose stew. I just can't get there. To pull the trigger and kill an animal. So I know that sounds probably like a big wuss move to most of Northern Ontario, especially Newfoundlanders, but that's just me. But I probably like the snowshoeing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I've never shot a gun either, and I don't plan to. So I'm not a big hunter. So we'll definitely steer from that.
Okay, what about fishing? Now, is there any ice fishing on the go up there?
Oh, there's all kinds of stuff. I live on the water right here. You can fish off my patio here if you feel like it. So
Really? Okay. Well,
yeah,
I guess it'll be March, that late March, then April, May. So probably ice fishing would be out. Not that I
yeah.
prefer it. I just figure
Well, you
while
can
when
do
I
real
grow.
fishing then if you feel like it. I'm
I
not a big
do.
fisherman, but you know what? It's all yours. I'll set you up with a rod.
Well, I enjoy it. I'm not, you know what, Brooksy? A few years ago, few, 6 or 7 now, everything's a few, so the better part of a decade ago, I just taught I lived on a pond. Uh, I guess you'd call it up there, lake. And I just taught myself. I went to YouTube. And I mean, I grew up, I did a little bit of, oops. I did a little bit of fishing growing up with my buddy Jeremy Charles. He'd usually rig it all up for me. And I enjoyed going with Jeremy, but in my recent years, I enjoy just doing it just to escape. I how would I put it? It's inspiring. If I'm like writing a book or I've got a big podcast or a speech or something coming up, I go out and I do that for smoke a joint, maybe have a beer or
It's the only
two,
way to do it.
maybe do that. Yeah, bring out something,
Yeah.
especially have a cook up or something. Now, fishing is usually secondary, but
Yeah.
around here you do catch some
Well, the
decent.
funny thing for me, like back in the day in training, I grew up, my parents had a cottage in Muskoka area. So I didn't like to fish, but my dad did. And he used to put me in the paddle boat, put his feet up, and I would paddle him around the lake for hours. And it would turn into part of my training. It was a lot of fun to do the father son thing, but I never got into fishing. So I just said, "Hey, I'll take you around," and I would just paddle all day and take him around while he trolled. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, that does sound all right. See, for me, that's all I need to do. That's why I could go on the hunting trip. I just I wouldn't really want to, but I totally would enjoy being out there. I like golfing. I find it really peaceful, but I suck at golf and I don't really long to do it. But once we get out there, like I'm going to a charity tournament, a few of them this summer. I won't even mind just walking around with the guys. I like the outdoors.
That's what
It
it's all about, eh?
it
It's
is
just
really, like I've often
who
gone
cares how
fishing.
you score, how you hit? It's about the laughs and all that stuff that comes with it.
Yeah, man, totally. It's more of a break for the mind. Okay, you know what? I got a bunch of questions written down. Yeah, some people send me some, feedback, I suppose, for lack of a way to put it, in question form, statement form. People know each other. The hockey community is small, so I put together a bunch of questions for you and I. Now, for those that want to hear about Brooksy's career in chronological order, somewhat. When were you on, Brooksy? A year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Do you remember? You were on my podcast. I don't know. It was before. If we're at 141B, it was before episode 100. I will. I'll
Yeah, I
actually.
think so. I can't remember. We've done so many things over the years. I can't remember.
Yeah, I know. I can't either. But you guys check for it. It's back there, Brendan Brooks. And anyway, we'll talk a little bit about your career, but I'm also going to get into some general questions that my listeners had for me and maybe a guest, not knowing who it would have been. And you're as good as any. By the way, how long have you been co-hosting the game?
I've done it for about 3.5 years, 3, 4 years.
And can people find that online?
Yeah, anywhere. Apple, Spotify, anything. Anywhere you look. YouTube. We just got the YouTube going now. So it's the Game Sports Show, and it's doing really well. And we've had some great guests like yourself, and we're gonna keep it going.
Do you enjoy that?
I do. It kind of keeps me feeling like I'm a part of something with the game,
Yeah.
in the sport. And I really miss the dressing room. I'm sure you feel the same way. And
Yeah.
when you get to talk to guys like yourself, and you get to find out more about them, even more than when you played with them. And I've really enjoyed that part of it.
And what's with the mustache?
I don't know. I just changed her up.
Okay, I like it. I just
had one. I've never really had one, and I guess now that I'm getting older, I can grow one. It took me forever. I don't think I had much facial hair in my all my 20s, so it's time.
What 2004? I guess you would have been. Yeah, you were in your mid 20s, and it looked. I remember not even thinking you could ever grow facial hair. So you were late in the game.
Oh,
Honestly,
I was late to arrive for
you
sure.
had a baby face, but fuck, you were a rocket. How did you get into inline? I mean, most of the guys on that team played professional inline. Now, we were locally here. We had a league that was just real good, and I knew Darren Colburn, who knew Mark Wolf, who got me onto that team. I didn't really deserve it. All the other guys had put in years and years of professional inline hockey. How about you? I don't think you did.
Yeah, like so for me, I got into it when rollerblades first came out. Like me and my buddies would play like street roller hockey for hours and hours, and I loved it. And then in Southern Ontario, they started a roller hockey league, and in my town we were called Niagara Panthers, and we started this. There was this league that started, and I was like, you know what? I want to be a part of it, and we got paid. Like it was crazy. I was getting every game I played. I made quite a bit of money, and then it went from there. Then we started to go to tournaments, and then I got seen by Mission, and then they brought me on board to their pro team, and that's where I ended up with Jerry St. Cyr, Mike Hunt, Wolfie, all these guys, Hugo Belanger, like all these, inline like superstar guys, and I was just the baby on the team. And then
where was this team?
The team was it was based. We went to tournaments all over, so it was Rink Rat and Mission. I think they were joined up, so it was Team Rink Rat. And I don't think we lost a game for like years and years at tournament, like so many. But it was pretty much our Team Canada team as well.
I see.
And it was fun. It was, you know what? I had a lot of fun playing ice hockey, but the most fun I ever had was playing roller hockey, these tournaments.
I tell you, I look back, I don't know what happened there, man. Lightning in a bottle for me, because we did have a really competitive local league. I mean, all the players, I don't know, we had Ryan Clough and Teddy Purcell on my team, and we lost. Like it was real intense, but still, I had really no business. I don't know how I got onto that team. I don't. But because you guys, again, playing, I didn't realize you played pro as well. But when I got there, I remember just, because I'd never played on an anything stage. It was just St. John's, just Newfoundland. Mm-hmm. So when I got there and realized, and they were like, this is the best in the world. And it was so much fun, except we played with a level of offsides. It was a little different. But at that tournament, for people that don't know, Brooksy and I played the World Championships together in 2004. It was in London, Ontario. I should have mentioned that. Bad host. And anyway, we went and we stayed at the University of Western Ontario. So we stayed in the dorms there, and we spent a week and a half together, and it was a lot of guys, a lot of legends, like he just mentioned. I knew a lot of them. I'd heard stories, but it was nice to all play on the one team. And Brooksy, do you remember what happened? We made the final against USA, and do you remember what the outcome and how it all went down?
Oh, I remember. You know what I mean? Those are things you don't forget.
This was just one of the biggest heartbreaks of my life, too.
I know. I couldn't believe it. I think we were definitely the favorite going in, and the U.S. team, they play roller. A lot of those guys, a lot of them didn't play ice hockey, so they played roller hockey all year round. Like I'd say 90% of their team, and so that's all they were doing. And we brought the ice hockey style to the game, and we got in a little bit of penalty trouble in the final, and because we beat them in the round robin, I think pretty easy. I think we,
pretty fucking easy, dude. I mean, fuck. I thought it was. Look, I'm not going to say I thought we were going to definitely win it. I would never said that out loud, but yes, I did in my head think that. Without being cocky either, without like going out there and I'm not saying that I counted my chickens. It was just the odds said we had the puck 80% of the game. And so for people that don't know, it's 4-on-4, no hitting, but there was more physical action than you would have thought. And there's no offsides though. You can put a guy right down by the other net if you want. So the whole game, like it's really opened up because people can skate wherever, and you can make, a Hail Mary and there be a scoring chance in 3 seconds from nothing at the other end of the rink. But anyway, in this particular game, we were really, really outplaying them. And anyway, we made it in overtime, and it was a fluke goal. It was a complete fluke goal. Do you remember what happened?
Yeah, I think it was just a dump in, was it not?
It was a dump in, and our goalie came out to play it, and when he went to shoot, it just kind of rolled under his stick,
Yeah,
and
it was just, and I couldn't believe it. And I still, even though that happened, I still thought we were going to tie it up. I think we had so many chances after that.
you're right.
And
You're right. That was late in the game. And did we ever? We bombarded the net. I remember looking down and seeing all those names, like you said, Wolf and Saint Cyr. Oh God, there were Victor Gervais was out there, and I'd read about these guys. They were all in the Western League like 8, 9 years before I was, and even less, I guess. And they were legends. And I'm looking and seeing, like, this is who's got it for us. They've got, and it was boom, boom, boom. It was post. It was off the glass. Must have been 10 shots in the last minute, and we just couldn't pull the trigger. But what an absolute blast of a time! That's one of the funnest tournaments of any kind that I've ever played.
yeah, like, I know we didn't win it, but you would have thought we won it after. That's for sure.
Can you believe it's almost 20 years ago?
No,
Dude,
I can't.
in a year
It
from now,
feels like yesterday, to me. And those things just, I don't know. They stay so close. It's almost as if it follows me. And because it was such a great memory and so fun and no worries. And it was just a great time. I know, I mean, obviously there's rules in place now, I think, because of that team we had. So
yeah, well, we're in the dorm too. Remember that? Oh God,
yeah. So you would have thought we won the whole darn thing, but
and they had the girls and the guys. Didn't they have us all on the same level?
they did.
What were they thinking there?
They weren't thinking.
Girls and guys of Team Canada all on the same wing, on the same level.
Yeah, I think it changed now. I'm from what I hear, I don't think any guys and girls teams are ever allowed to stay on the same floor.
I wouldn't think. I mean, it was so
should have been allowed back then.
If I wouldn't even want to be a stickler, but if I'm a coach, I'm going, there's no way. That was so much fun though. I'm so glad we got to do it.
Great group of guys, all, I mean, they're all respectful. I stayed in touch with almost all the guys, and I mean, they're just good human beings, good husbands, good dads. It's just they're just good people, and I'm so glad I got to be a part of it with them.
Okay, Brooksy, so you're a huge Washington Capitals fan, okay? In this world, you're a huge Washington Capitals fan. Do you want, you got one of these two things can happen, not both. Either Ovi scores the most goals ever or they win another Stanley Cup. What do you think you'd want?
For me, I take the Stanley Cup. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the, what I mean? Am I still Canadian, even though I'm this Washington fan? Because if I'm Canadian, I don't want them to break it. Even if I am a huge fan.
Even if you are, you know what? Spoken like a true overall hockey fan. You know what? Yeah, you simply don't want them to break it, but I want the Caps to win, of course.
Absolutely.
Two things can be true. Both of those things can be true. With a lot of teams, that would be a rarity. But yeah, if you were a true hockey fan and you loved Wayne Gretzky, hey, good answer. The draft age in the NHL, do you think it should be heightened, meaning older?
I definitely think it should be at least another year older, personally, because the change, like, think about think about the guys that you have played with that actually hadn't, been drafted before, but then there's some guys that kind of develop a little bit later. And some of those young guys that were so good at a young age, they kind of changed and they never even made, like, I remember playing with guys who scored over 60 goals in the O, and, they never really made it. And anywhere, like, they struggled in the A. And I think that's, I think that extra year for even more guys to come up, I think the draft would be even stronger.
I think so too, and I'll tell you this: like it worked for me, but I remember this happening. Like, I was brought out west when I was 14. I got drafted 3rd overall in the Western League. Okay, so I was a blue chip prospect, and there's no level of boasting here. This is just fact. So I went to the Tri-City Americans, and I felt, and it's true. I could. Not that I did, but I could have maybe a bit weaker of a camp and still make it because they knew they were looking at what I've done, and I'd led my junior team in scoring as a 14-year-old and 15-year-old. So I went in with that, with a level of expectancy attached to my name, which sometimes hurts you and sometimes helps you, and it helps you in getting the benefit of the doubt of making the team. But the first year, I remember I had 33 points, 176 penalty minutes in 61 games. And that was, even for where I went, that was a little bit of a disappointment. I thought it was a solid year, but when the draft, I remember the rankings started coming out in the summertime, and I believe maybe I was rated in the third round at the beginning, a possible second. So I remember the year started, okay?
Yeah.
I was a centerman my first year. I was a centerman when I left. So I'd played 3 years now, 14, 15, 16, and junior as a centerman. But Damon Lankow was a better skater. He really was. But now we're both in our draft year because Lanks has a late birthday. So, meaning he'd had 2 years in the league, I had 1. But now I'm looking at it, and I remember Bob Lauk coming to me, and he said, you're just not as good of a skater as Damon. It's straight ahead. I was powerful. I was real fast, but his agility was second to none in the draft. So I went wing, and it kind of made sense because Damon was a little smaller, and he would really start a lot of shit. And I fought, and I learned that, I was a pretty good fighter so I was a good fit because I was a passer ahead of a shooter, and I could pick up for guys like Lanks. He was a perfect mix. And I had, we just happened to bond. We were both in our draft year. I remember 4 hat tricks in the first 16 games. I end with 50 goals. So I go 8th overall, and I'd lived up to expectations. But I remember thinking, I had to change my position. And if I had stayed second line center, even though, again, I wouldn't have cared, I would have done whatever the coach wanted me to do, but that probably wouldn't have happened. So there was a level of fortune to it. And then I was like, later in my career, when I got injured almost every year, I realized, I'm like, fuck, man, good thing I didn't get injured in my draft year. Then I was like, good thing I got put with good billets, like no one really knew. Good thing that they were good. Otherwise, my head would have been thrown off. Good thing I didn't have a girlfriend, and I was like crazy in love, and it was in my head. Everything went right. And sometimes it's not even so much someone improving. Like my roommate, BJ Young, who ended up passing away. I mean, people know that story. But BJ was like definitely as good at, he just didn't get, and he was like a little bit lazy. He needed to grow up, sort of thing. So I often think, like, if nothing else, the extra year, because you're a major junior, it's 16, 17, then that's it. You're drafted. After your 17-year-old year, you might be 18, but you start the year as a 17-year-old. You're in high school. So I often thought if it was 18 or 19, then I just think everything would even out. Like, it's not like I went back and had a bad year the next year, but BJ caught a good coach that liked him and had 58 goals, right? And then all of a sudden, Josh Green came on the scene, and Iginla went from being like real good to like, holy fuck, that's Joe McGinley. Well, of course, because Darcy Tucker's in the NHL now, and now he's on the first line. He was no different, right? Iggy worked at it, but I know that was a long way to put it, but there's so much that goes on. Like, some people don't make it at 16 because they break their leg, and then.
Well, yeah, but I also don't understand is when they're 20, you're allowed to play junior till you're 20. So you have all these years before I'd say 90% of the guys leave after that. You know what I mean? They don't go at 18. It's a very, rare thing that an 18-year-old is going straight to the NHL. That happens totally once every couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. And when it's also like, these guys, it's not like it's a shit league. Like, these people are coming back and playing. Like, I always wondered, like, people go, oh man, like what's his name? Shane Wright.
Mm-hmm.
They almost look down on it that he's going back. I'm like, it's pretty good though. You'll get a bit of confidence. Like, junior isn't this cesspool of mediocrity. There's a lot of great players in junior. You can really develop, right? So if I don't give a fuck what year they're in. If someone puts the puck into the net in major junior 40 times, 50 times, 60 times in a year, I don't give a fuck. It's and they always end up being, you know what I mean? Rarely do you see that level of hands in junior just turn into nothing. Now, they might, like Aaron Asham, they might assume a different role because they have it to give. But, if you give Ash the puck, I mean, like in the A, I mean, he scored 20 or 30 goals a year. I mean, he's a good player. Okay, so growing up, I noticed, I mean, I watched the game real closely, if it was anything that I really was fascinated or I wanted to improve on, which was rarely skating, but it was in front of the net. So two guys that I loved watching in front of the net, tip pucks in and whatnot, were Tim Kerr. He played on Philadelphia for the most part, at least in my mind. He's playing for Philadelphia. He was an impact player, big guy, shot right. He would stand in front of the net, tip a lot of them in. And on the Montreal Canadiens, there was during all that, they won it in '86. They won it again in '93. In the late '70s, they won 4 or 5 in a row. So, for 15-year span there, the Canadiens are challenging for it, they're still the mighty Canadiens in the '80s. And one of their best players, I thought, that never gets any credit whatsoever. You'll hear everybody else's name before his. His name was Bobby Smith. And Bobby Smith, in front of the net, could tip pucks in. He was a magician at it. He got 20 to 30 a year. And I bet you half of those were just standing there in front. He was smart. He was strong. And he would tip pucks in. Whoa. Who did you come across? In the minors, it would have been Kevin Smith, Ryan's brother. He was good at that, big guy. Did you come across anybody in your career that was exceptional at net front presence like that? That was a forward.
Well, I ended up signing an NHL contract there with the Red Wings in 2006, and that Holmstrom was there.
Wow, great answer.
Best. So one of the best, and just to watch him in practice and after practice, he was like just doing it all the time. And, I had just turned 26 there when I signed with them. And, I was, just trying to figure out, that's all I felt like he was doing always after, everybody else works on things, but that's what he was doing. And then when you see him in a game, it's phenomenal. And he's not an overly big guy.
No, he's actually more. The two guys I mentioned are like much bigger than myself. So, they were role models, but to some degree, I couldn't really get to where they were. They were just bigger. But Holmstrom, he's fascinating. You're right. He's one of the best ever at the position. And he's not 6'5", 250. Looks to be average, looks to be around.
Yeah, he was just so good at screening them. I can't imagine the amount of goals that just happened to, go off him from a point shot and stuff, but he was just so good at it. And, you know what I mean? I kind of, as my career went on and I went over to overseas, I started to do that like a lot more. And I noticed a huge difference, how everyone growing up, go to the net. You know what I mean? I would go to the net and stay there a little extra longer just because of what I saw Holmstrom do.
That is fascinating. And it really does. People often ask me, I get this question, like, what was it like, to practice in the NHL? What was it like? It's hard to really say what it was like, but I was absorbing like a sponge. Like that stuck with you, right? So you just said your big success in your career is overseas and becoming. You really, really solidified yourself as an international player, one of the best overseas. And you're telling me directly that watching him, so at some point you were a kid coming up and watched that, and it helped you right into your 30s. And I say that all the time. I'm like, it's hard for me to say what it was like. What was it like? Well, the biggest thing I can say is that, the players were teaching me really more subconsciously than the coach was. Like I would look and go, wow, Saku Koivu, what's he going to do? And each little thing he did, I can, take something from those stars. Even they didn't even have to be stars. Turner Stevenson, I couldn't believe when I first watched him. I'm like, fuck, he can barely skate, man. Like, how is he out here? And then those little things like net front and in the wall and in the corner. It's like, I see. There's more to it. What other sports do you watch? What would be your second favorite?
For watching, you know what? I love football. I've actually never been to a game live, but on TV, I really love football. And I know I'm in all these pools and betting and fantasies, and I'm sure that helps. But I really enjoy watching football on TV.
Well, it's a chicken or egg thing. I'm in those two now, but those kind of just helped me get in touch. It was years and years before I really, really bought in. And I was like, we don't play it here much, especially in Newfoundland. And, it's one day a week and these guys think they're tough with 16 fucking games and we play 84. I almost have my backup. But once I embraced it and started really following the storylines, but if it wasn't for the betting, then I wouldn't really know the rules. That's what got me into it, because I'm forced now to know that, especially when the games like the in-game betting,
Yeah, oh,
and
yeah.
it'll like give you the option of what you think's going to happen. So once I bit and I went in, I became all in. So I really, really enjoy it now a lot. Who do you got for the Super Bowl?
Oh man. I mean, I had Mahomes in my fantasy as my quarterback, so
Yeah.
you know what I mean. I think if it all depends if he's healthy. If he's healthy, man, I think he could. They always have a chance.
That's
But
exactly what I said. And yeah, anyway, keep going.
no, but I think as a team versus team right now, I think Philly's the better team.
That seems to be the consensus. And that's where, like, I don't know enough about defensive formations and everything else. I can hear what people assume. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm everything I'm reading is saying that the Eagles are just overall such a solid team, an 8 out of 10 or more in everything. And Mahomes is Mahomes, but they're a little weaker when it comes to depth. Now, I'm with you though. Like whenever there's someone like that's not that
Game
Hurts isn't, but
changer.
this is Mahomes. You know, he's really he's one of the only athletes with that kind of cachet out there right now. And I don't know, those kind of guys get in a situation. I know it's not just the quarterback, but I hate betting against greatness. And I'm here. I still don't have the bet made, but I
Yeah,
think
it's you know what I mean. I think you're like flipping a coin right now with it,
Mm.
with this game coming up. But the way Philly won the semifinal, pretty easy. I think they're looking pretty good.
they are, but I mean, that was a bit tainted
Yeah, a little bit.
with all the injuries. But yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
I see. But they didn't they go 16-3? I think both teams might have.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for sure. I think that's what it was.
I think they did, but I don't know. The Eagles all year didn't really. It seems to me, since like week 4 or 5, it's the Eagles to lose. Like and that sounds like I'm an Eagles fan. I'm not either. I don't mind them. I respect them. I kind of want to see Mahomes because I think this guy could challenge Brady. It's tough, man. Brady, just think about this, man. He has more Super Bowls than the next team. He has 7, and then the Patriots, all with him, have 6.
Yeah,
But Super
it's
Bowls.
wild.
It's not like
Yeah,
hockey where like the Canadians got 24. I mean, Super Bowls altogether, Tom Brady has more than any team has.
yeah, it's
Like
phenomenal.
it's almost like how could you possibly do it in a 32 team? Mahomes could be Mahomes, you could be the best, but how many it's just going to get to that game, you're going to get into the game. You could be the best by a landslide, but at some point an upset happens. And then outside of that, injuries happen, and then it's got to happen in the moment. And for someone to get 7, I don't know.
Yeah, I
But
don't
if
know.
there is a
It's
living
amazing.
if there's a
It's
person
amazing.
out there that could do it, it's Mahomes. And that's why I wouldn't want to bet against somebody that's challenging for that kind of greatness in a Super Bowl. But anyway, I've spoken too much on the subject. What do you think Eric Carlson's going to do? Do you think he's going to repeat this kind of year, or is he going to go back into a funk? What do you do with that?
It's so funny you asked that because I was talking about it just recently with somebody, and I think the problem was with him in San Jose for so long with Burns. They're the identical player who always want the puck, and to have them together before, I think it kind of held him back a bit. And I think he had some injuries too, but now that he's on his own, he's the guy again. What a difference in
You
his
know what?
confidence in his game.
That is a great take, my friend, because yeah, I was going, is this what's going on? Like, because I didn't think of that, and I should have, because Burns
Oh
shoots
yeah,
right as well. Like they're playing the exact same
identical.
identical. Not even like it's a left shot D. He's playing
Yeah.
D, but he's taking all that space
Yeah.
and all.
So, and they're both number one power play guys. They're both, you know what I mean? Like
Well,
it took
I hope
away.
there's more in the tank, because if I'm a team, the way the salary cap is structured, I mean, he probably won't get traded, right? But that would come into my mind. Even if it wasn't, if I was going to trade for a guy that makes that kind of loot, that's going to take that up that much of a cap hit on my team, I'd want to at least want to get the real Eric Carlson. And I'm going, what happened? But
Yeah.
that gives me encouragement.
Depends
That
on
gives
what you
me
got there.
encouragement.
Depends on
Depends
who's
on,
there,
yeah.
Like I don't think you can send them to the Rangers with Fox. I don't think you
Yeah.
can't send them to Nashville with Like you got to find
Yeah.
a team that really needs them.
Fuck, you're
Uh,
right. Well,
that
based on that question alone, you'd be a great GM.
Are you ready for the biggest Sunday in sports? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 57, has all the Super Bowl action you need. New customers can bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, all customers can get in on the Super Bowl 57 excitement with DraftKings Happy Hour Super Boosts. Check the DraftKings Sportsbook app every day between 3 p.m. Pacific and 6 p.m. Pacific to see what prop bet will be boosted. So, what are you waiting for? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN. New customers can bet $5 on Super Bowl 57 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Again, that's promo code THPN, as in the Hockey Podcast Network, only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 57. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. This time of year, everyone's talking about making big changes, which is all well and good, but most of the time, pretty unrealistic. You've probably found that the smallest changes to your routine can actually make the biggest impact. In the same way, you don't have to break the bank to make a big deal purchase. Even the smallest things can be part of a big change if it's something you use every day, just like Raycon earbuds. Raycon is premium audio at the perfect price point, so you can build great habits without breaking the bank. Whether you're looking for a pair of everyday earbuds, low latency gaming headphones, or a speaker with a battery that will last all night at your next party, Raycon's got you covered. And yep, Raycon start at half the price of other premium audio brands. That means you don't have to choose between products. You can get one of each, or a pair and a spare, and still pay less than you would with some of the other guys. Even if you know you'll love your Raycons, Raycon wants to make sure you feel great about your purchase. They offer buy now, pay later options, and every purchase has an easy and free return guarantee. Ready to buy something small with a big impact? Go to buyraycon.com/THPN today to get 15% off your Raycon order. Again, that's buyraycon.com/THPN to score 15% off. buyraycon.com/THPN.
What's your favorite All-Star game memory? Not that you played in. I mean,
okay.
someone asked me, I don't know. I like Big Ally Afraid. He's a friend of mine to this day. So probably when he did that and broke the record. And
those days, I think the old days are always great for me. I used to love when they had the old jerseys, the old Campbell jerseys with Gretzky and Lemieux playing there. And
I just love it. Just have a game. What's wrong with it? People go, well, the game wasn't intense, but if you go look back and look at it, it was 5-on-5, and at least they were halfway trying. They really were like what we consider intense now. Like that All-Star game back then, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Now, I only found out Kachuk got the MVP. Yesterday, I just purposely said I'm not watching this.
I don't mind the 3-on-3 because I think it's exciting. When they go to overtime, I love it.
It could be exciting if they were skating. It's not even like they're not. It's one thing not to hit. It's one thing not to skate 100%. They're not even going 20%. It's like how guys go out there and try to show me what you got with your absolute minimal effort. Their feet are barely moving. I
agree. But I think that, as in the final, once they, the little round robin thing they do, the final game, I think that always the second period in the last 8 minutes with $1 million on the line, it's still $1 million was split between whatever.
Honestly, I don't know because I don't watch that level. So maybe
I'm pretty sure they get $1 million, the winning team, and whether it goes to charity or whatever. I don't know. You remember when you bet in practice back in the day when you're doing team versus team, like red versus white? I mean, you want to win.
Yeah. No, that was the best. Credit a full year. I was a black ace in Montreal, man. I played 4 games. I was there all year. But again, not to knock them, that was the plan. They just wanted me to practice with the team rather than send me back to junior. And they did send me back in February at the deadlines. But I was up there for, say, 5 months, well into the summer. So, and Yvon Cormier and Steve Shutt, who both played, they were assistant coaches, both played. They're both in the fucking Hall of Fame. So it was great to go in with, but their philosophy was, not, because we would get bag skated every day, but the way they did it, just make 2 teams, I don't know, me Matt Higgins, Brad Brown against Aaron Asham, Boyd Olson, and oh God, Scott King, right? And we'd put money down and just play for 2 hours and be fucking bagged. Not only that, you know, it was pretty good. You know, a lot of one-on-one, like we weren't going to fucking half-ass it with their NHL coaches there. So, you know, it wasn't easy to like track Darcy Tucker, you know, and found, you know, our foot speed got better. It was great practice. I still, you know, and in junior, I think that would have been like, we would have got bag skated and maybe that would have been a little part of it. But I mean, for hours and hours and hours each day. And we were in fucking unbelievable shape. And credit to Von Cormier and Steve Schutt. And you're right, we went fucking hard. Now I think we maybe might have put $500. That was the NHL then. It was cheddar. We might have put money on the line between us. Me and Tux always did. We came to blows a couple times. Just for your trivia here, what year do you think helmets became mandatory in the NHL?
Oh my God, helmets mandatory for the first time. I'm gonna say, I don't know why. This seems like I'm going to guess a number that's probably later than it actually was, but I'm going to say like 93.
No, 79.
Oh my God, I was way off.
But
I don't know why I thought it was later.
I always think
about what's the D-man from the Oilers there.
Listen. This is the trick part of it. I think you're thinking how long did people wear them? They became mandatory in 79 for anybody new. So
okay, yeah.
So in the 79, it would have been mandatory for rookies to want a team.
You got me.
The last player, I didn't mean to make a trick. I just realized the last player was 1997. Now, I can't imagine that. Just imagine 97. People were opting. Well, my mind, who was it? I played against the Leafs. Dave Ellett played a little bit with no helmet. He was there, fucking gray hair on him. That was weird. I guess Craig McTavish would have been playing.
McTavish, yeah.
Brad Marsh. There were players into the 90s, but that's what I don't get. Like, it fascinates me that hockey went as long as it did with goalies wearing no mask and by extension, players wearing no helmet. Like, come on. Like, once the puck is being raised, like Bobby Hull, all right.
Well, the sticks, even that, like the sticks were good. Then they had the two pieces. Then you could make that puck
like
flat.
You know, you're looking at footage from like 1935. I can see it, although still, a helmet. You would think that it would come in earlier. Like someone fell and hit their head. But anyway, you know, for the sake of like even a hat, like it's just wild. But like in the 90s, like you're talking Chris Pronger and I don't know, Al McInnes, and it's no different, you know, I guess it's a little different now with the composites, but you know, okay, what's the difference in 90 odd and 100 odd? Like, you know, sticks were curved. It's hitting pads. Goalies are going down. It's coming up. Like just as many pucks I would think went off the glass, and you're skating around. Like, you know, that's my lifetime. That's me out there. Like I played in 95, my first exhibition game. I can't imagine skating around with no helmet on. How the fuck did they do it?
I don't know. I definitely love the no visor though, and I know that's going off topic.
No, it's not. I love the no visor.
I always think about it because I don't know how many years I played pro before I went to the half shield. But my first 4 or 5 years, 4 years or 5 years, I wore nothing, and it was awesome.
You know what? I went into Montreal camp, and I took that visor off. Well, I never put it on. I've never felt so free and liberated. And when I went onto the ice, the first thing I thought after doing just like 2 or 3 drills was, wow, can I ever see more out here? Like, because no matter what, it's not just the visor, it's where it gets screwed onto your helmet in the side. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a little tiny part of your peripheral vision that's gone with the visor. I don't care. And people say, well, you know, Crosby can still pass. And I know that. I'm not saying that the best can't, and it's still relative. I can still make it pass. Peripheral is still there. I can still make, but all I know is that I got a little bit better of a vision with it off. And to me, it was freeing. I felt immediately like a better player. I was like, wow, I can see so much more. I loved it. And
I loved it for fighting too. I loved it for like getting scrapping, and like you didn't have to worry about you didn't have to worry about the helmet getting it off first. You don't cut your hand wide open on the visor.
No, and
Even
no,
though I
not at
used to
all.
punch people with the
And
visors,
even
but
no, but you do though in the heat of the moment you do, and then even with fighting with the visor on, I was like, sometimes it would choke me, or
yeah,
I would
it
get
would
it in
come
and
down. Like mine used to come down on me and like get me like in
yeah, so
areas that I.
it'd cut you like it'd come down on you, and then it'd be like laying on your face, so it'd end up cutting your cheek at the bottom or your lip. You know what I mean? Like I got cut more with the visor on because the visor was like a knife on my face, and someone's pounding it. But if it comes down, like I can kind of adjust my helmet. I can kind of use my arm. I just rather it. I know, and I hate to. I'm not. To me, it wasn't even a decision. Like some people would go. You think that that's promoting like reckless play, maybe, but especially those first few years, I like a 10 out of 10. It was like, what? Why are you going to put a visor on? Like I would get mad at the trainer. Well, everybody's starting to go with. I'm like, fuck off. I was that adamant against it, but at some point you put it on. Didn't you get one in the face? I know you did
Oh,
the end of your career.
oh yeah, 2012. I took a Christoph Schubert, who was my teammate on the power play. His slap shot. I don't know if you remember Christoph Schubert from
I do.
for Ottawa Senators, a big D man. Anyways, he was my line mate, and he took a slapper and it hit me square in the face. And
That's a big
my
one.
nose in left field. Yeah, it was bad.
That was the big
bad.
one you showed. You told me about when we ate last year.
Yeah, that was a nasty one, and
something like that happened, of course, I'd probably put it on.
But I had a visor on.
Really?
Got underneath it, came around and right underneath it, so it didn't really matter.
Wow. Do you think the visor helped it to go?
Oh, probably. It probably saved my vision. So that's the beautiful thing. So I think that's where it came in. You know what I mean? Those anomaly moments. But I think for the little things, playing without a half shield, so many guys were more aware of it. I feel like guys kept their sticks down more. Guys that weren't fighters or whatever didn't get as chirpy. I don't know. I just think there was a lot of little things not having the visor were good for.
It's also more. I know this is probably going to sound silly for anybody that hasn't been in the situation, but it's more social when you're out there and you don't have the visor on. It's like less of a barrier. Guys are like joking with each other and stuff. I don't know. I find it like that. Oh, just 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Hello. I know I'm on the air. I'm on the air though now, Mom. I told you I can call you back. I'm on the air. You know what she was saying? Get a picture with Corson. I'm going to play in Truro tomorrow.
Yeah.
And an NHL alumni game. George Larocque, Corse, Andre Waugh, and Joey McDonald. That's who I know. I'm not sure who else. That's just I saw it on a sheet earlier where like sharing a van or something. But anyway, I told Mom. Now, when I was 19, speaking of guys that are older, that are, you look up to, Corse would have been 31, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
He was a captain of St. Louis, played on Edmonton, and got traded to Montreal. So that was 96, 97. And anyway, my mom happened to be there. And Corse, who didn't know she was there, we were just going out for a pregame meal. And he came over and sat with me, and he goes, "You went 8th overall, eh?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "So did I." He goes, "You shoot left." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "So did I." He goes, 50 goals and fucking 200 plus penalty minutes. I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Just like me." He goes, "You and I are going to get along fine." And he grabbed my shoulder and, "Nice to meet you. I'm Shane Corson." And to this day, honestly, like best buddies. Even when awesome. you really find it, because I got sent down. Like Mark Recchi and Patrice Brisebois, and there's so many up there, Vinny Dumfoos, that were really nice to me, almost like big brothers or father figures in a way. I was 19. But, you move on, and there's a lot of people that come in and out of your life. But, of course, like true to his word, like, didn't matter. I was in the minors, senior hockey, always call or text with a joke or, hey, what the fuck's going on? Always get me gigs to signing here and there. And just, a genuine life teammate,
Yeah. Well, I think in the hockey world, if you're, somewhat a good guy, you know what, you can get along with anybody. You got the few anomalies where they you're hated on by your teammates and you're hated by the other team. Those don't happen very often, and that's what I love about hockey, because I feel like most of the guys are really good guys.
That is, I don't know the reason. I don't know if it's a lot of from small towns. I really don't, because it costs a lot of money to play hockey, and you would think that it would be somewhat elitist. And I know in some places it is, but for the most part, if you ask, and I know a lot of reporters, I don't want to put words in anybody particular in their mouth, but the vast majority say, if you take the big four sports, if you want to say MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL, and of course, there's exceptions and everything else. And we all know great athletes that are humble. Or speaking of athletes that are humble, that are great, Patrick Mahomes, right? I mean, but they all say that they'd 10 out of 10 rather interview a hockey player. When it comes to the treatment, I don't mean in what they're going to say. I mean, I'd rather Kyrie Irving than any hockey player, like when it comes to what he's going to say. But the way they treat the media, their availability, manners, things like that, and I don't know. Maybe it's just what we're taught early on.
I also think the relationship with the fans, I think hockey's probably one of the better ones as well.
Yeah, there's definitely that. And again, I know I'm going to get piss mail from people that I'm not saying that the other sports aren't highly engaged, some of them in more ways than others. I just mean generally hockey players are the easiest to deal with for the media. Let's say that, the easiest to deal with. I don't know about a big fish, a quote that you want to fish out, or a certain, outfit, who knows? We've I guess those loud kind of personalities are a little less common in hockey, but for the most part, I like where it is. I like that our best player coming up, Connor Bedard, in the best we've had in years, a generational player, as much as we can see, is extremely humble and actually said at the World Juniors, "Listen, guys, can you take a break and stop talking about me?" Right?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty amazing. I recall that, and you know what I mean. That's he's a special player, and it's really nice to watch. And
yeah,
I mean, at first when I first heard his name, and I was like, I don't know. But then when you actually really watch him, it's pretty phenomenal.
In this day and age, where there's a lot of parity out there, right? Like, it's not as easy to just pick apart these players of world-class caliber, and he does it like it's the 80s. It's funny, I work on a film set for the most part, and 3 different people that I convince every year, I'm like, or you go into the film set, water cooler kind of talk. Those who are into hockey are into it, those who aren't. So a lot that aren't, I talk, they'll go like, well, maybe I should watch a game or two. So I'll get them to watch. And you know what's funny? They all bring up that I don't even think about it. They go, what they can't believe about hockey is that we can change on the fly. And I never thought about that, but think of the other sports. So
you got to get a whistle.
Right? People are like, Jesus, what's going on? He's going off and he's coming. I go, yeah, you can just do that. What do you mean you can just do that? How do you count how many people are out there? I'm like, trust me, when you get used to it, there's a real, there's a knack to it. And then they also can't believe that we get interviewed during the game. And I never really thought about that either. But it's not like between quarters or halves in any other sport or innings, you see players go up in the media booth and get interviewed. Right?
Yeah,
but it happens all the time in Hockey Night in Canada or whatever it is, and ESPN, whatever it is, TNT.
Yeah, like right on the ice during a game, on the bench.
That happens on the bench now. Yeah, I mean, it was weird enough when it was like during the just after the period, but now it happens like literally on the bench. That's wild. Okay, now a little bit more trivia, and then you can go. Actually, I didn't realize it's always time flies talking to you. Rocket Richard had 50 goals in 50 games in 1944-45. It was his 3rd year in the league. How many other years did he have 50 goals?
God, I have no idea. I'd just be guessing. I would say 5.
0. That fascinated me. That year, he wasn't even the leading scorer on his team. Elmer Locke was. And at the end of his career, he had 970 games played, and he didn't have a point a game. I was astounded. I'm like, the Rocket Richard.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I had no idea.
Now, he had 544 goals overall. I mean, he could score. He was obviously the Rocket, I mean, for a reason. But I just figured, it wasn't until 68-69 that Bobby Hull had 54 goals. He was the first person ever to get more than 50. Anyway, I found that interesting. Not that I'm putting down the Rocket. The Rocket, if it was, he kind of, he's like Elvis to me. He fused eras together in a way that really not only kept the sport interesting, but made it almost compelling, the way he did it, and how competitive he was. And no one had ever scored 50 goals, and he scored 50 goals in 50 games in 44-45. So anyway, the Rocket was a great player. I just thought, I had this idea that he was like, he led the NHL in scoring for like 10 years in a row. No, it wasn't the case. And, rarely did he have a point a game. But anyway.
Great nickname, though.
Yeah, and, he did more for the Montreal Canadiens than most ever. And a lot would argue he was the number one Montreal Canadien ever. Meaning, I don't mean that, I didn't frame that question trying to put down the Rocket. I was just surprised. What year do you think offsides got introduced into the NHL?
I'm going to say, I don't know. I feel like in the 50s?
1930, but this is the thing. So in 1920, and I know this is going back, but like there was a time, like people were alive, like this, a decade's a decade. You couldn't make a forward pass at one point. Then they got rid of that, and you could do whatever. And then in 1930, they came up with offsides, which is what it is now. Now, a penalty would be, if you say hooking or holding like a penalty, you got a penalty shot, and that was a slap shot or any kind of shot from this hash marks. Okay, so the game was way different.
Totally.
And if you happen to play like between 1920 or 21 and 1930, it would have been like between offsides and not being able to pass it forward, but it was just like roller hockey. You could go anywhere. So I guess like Cyclone Taylor's numbers, Newsy Lalonde, these guys' numbers would have been a bit inflated. Like, it's weird because I look at it and traditionalists now would go, oh man, like I can't believe they got rid of hooking and holding, or, the red line. Like, it's a big thing. But hockey was always changing. Like,
yeah, that's what I like about it.
Yeah, exactly. You can be a hockey fan. My point was, I get a lot of traditionalists that, they want it exactly like it was in 1987 when they were 10 years old and it was their game, like every single rule they want the same. And it's not always going to be like that. And it can't, for many reasons.
Find ways to make it so you have to put new rules in. Like, there's so many things that happen.
Like at some point, it was, I don't know if it was Giguère or one of those guys, the goalies started wearing this gear that was outlandishly big, and you got to make a rule. But it's always going to be like that. Someone's going to get a one-up. Terry Sawchuk, Jerry Cheevers with the first guys wearing masks, Jacques Plante. It would have seemed, oh, that's a way around the rule. They don't want people raising it, so they're going to put a mask on. Now they can go down faster. Yeah, that's what happens. The sport evolves. And rules come out of it. Yeah, right. Normally for the better. There's always things that can be improved on, but I think the game's in a decent spot. One of the things, what would I like? I think we're in this spot now that clean hits. I mean, there was always hits, but now all of a sudden, Jacob Trouba threw 2 fucking clean hits the other night.
Awesome.
It turns into a fight right away, and that's new. I guess that's new. I mean, I don't know. I guess it happened once in a while back in the day. It's hard to really tell. Those you could tell they were fairly solid. I mean, if someone in my era went out and fucking hit the goalie, I would fight them. But if it was a clean hit at center ice, I don't really know if it was required. Now, that's the most physical part. It's almost seen. It's so rare. It's almost seen as.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
something that you need to react
every
to.
hit, you got to fight now.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God, there's a hit, so you got to fight. You can't hit us. It used to be a dirty hit. If it's a dirty hit, then
Right.
it's fucking go time. But if I'm playing a game and Scott Stevens hit Mark Recchi coming across the line, I wouldn't feel compelled to get up and fight for him. He's my team. Now that's changed. I would if it was any other situation, if it was dirty, or if a fucking tough guy fought one of our small guys, or someone ran the goalie. I guess things change. But I was
what was dirty then was considered, or dirty now is considered clean then.
Yeah. If to me it was like if I went down in a fight and whoever I was fighting like didn't keep hitting me. That's a bit of a code. To me, if I got my head going down through the middle and I get hit, that's my own fault.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have. It's a barbaric way to look at it, I guess. But I didn't expect anybody, put it that way. If someone hit me from behind, I would expect someone to get in there.
Well, those are things that we learn from as a kid too, right? Like we're taught that, like, keep your head up, always be aware, and even more so as you move up the levels.
Yes. And not only, I can even see it. Like I remember Brendan Witt, given that a couple times. I remember hitting Lankow coming across the middle, same sort of thing. And I did fight him, but it was because I was just sick and tired of it. And I went up, it was a next whistle, and I went, and I think I lost the fight. But I remember saying, hey, you want to fucking go? You're going to keep running at us? But it wasn't like a reactionary thing. I remember thinking that was clean. Like I got no reason to jump at him here in the middle of the play. I'm almost going to look unsportsmanlike doing that. I'll ask him later in the game and just, you know what, you fucking lay off. But it wasn't as reactionary for this clean hit. Now, the long way around it, I'm rambling. I only said that because that's what I think needs a little tweak, or maybe in the culture of the game. What do you think now could be changed? Instigator rule, penalty shot, overtime. Like what would you?
I think they need to get rid of the shootout. And I like it. I actually really like the shootout. It is great to watch, to see the skill on these guys. But I think now that they've gone to the 3-on-3, eventually the goal is going to come. So play till there's a goal, because 3-on-3, it's going to happen. Guaranteed.
Fuck me, man. That's a great answer. And that's what I often say. People that look at me and say, well, you can't have these games going for 6 and 7 extra periods. I'm like, no, it would never do that in 3-on-3. That's definitely.
It's impossible for whatever. Like, it's impossible.
It's impossible. It's not going to go 10 minutes. Like, it usually then, and even if you look at the games that after overtime, it goes into the shootout. I mean, it happens quite frequently, but usually during that time, like there might be a minute left and someone, like, there's a defensive way to play it too. You're often looking up and you wait. If you knew it was going to be over when a goal was scored, I think it'd be a little more run and gun. Like sometimes I can get it and just go back in my own. I can get a rest while I'm out there in 3-on-3, right? I know it's fast and you're like, less people are on the ice. Like, I really don't see that being a problem. If I was playing and I knew that, and the points would be counted, if I score a goal, it's counted in the standings or in the score sheet, I would want to play all night. I'm like, it wouldn't bother me one bit.
Right. No, I totally agree.
Okay, last question.
Oh, I thought you were about to sing there. You were getting your music voice ready there.
No, well, first of all, are you like, are you working with the hockey schools? Do you have anything to promote? Do you have any merch to sell for your show?
You know what? Right now, I'm being a dad and loving every minute of it. So right now, my number one focus with that and the game sports show, those are the two most important things in my life. And that's, I always say you can't put a price on free time. And my free time is with my boys, and that's what I'm loving right now.
And that's, like I said, for the most part, right? You're from St. Catharines, and you're back there a little bit, but you're in Sault Ste. Marie.
That's right. Yeah.
And where can people find you? Where can they find you on social media?
You can reach me at Brooksy4949. The Game Sports Show is the easiest way. TheGameSportsShow.com. TGEM. There's so many ways that way through the show, and that's probably the best way.
So here's what I'm going to do. When I find out my schedule for Sudbury, I'm going to let you know my itinerary, so to speak, my loose itinerary. Things change on a film set, weather for one thing, But for the most part, I know the days that I'll be working in the weeks, right? So let's do that. If it's not snowshoeing or fucking fishing or hunting or whatever, I don't mean just because I'm in Northern Ontario. I mean, like, fuck, go to a Greyhounds game or a Wolves game. Or this time, what I'm saying is that it's going to be opening up. We got a lot more, and I want to really take in Northern Ontario. I want to go to the restaurants. I want to, meet more locals in social settings and all of the like. So let's do that. Let's keep in touch over the next couple months, and let's make a plan. And I'll come see you in Sault Ste. Marie.
Sounds awesome. Look forward to it, brother.
Okay, Brooksy, thanks a lot, folks. Thanks tuning in to 141B of Tales with TR. If you're downtown St. John's and you want to go for a beer, why not? Go to the Bull and Barrel, TJ's Pub, Rob Roy Confusion, the Martini Bar, Greensleeves Pub, and the Bull and Barrel. And if you're going for a bite to eat, why not? Why not go to Merchant Tavern, Blue on Water, or Wedgwood Cafe? I love to eat at those places and drink at those establishments. But then again, if you're out, why not support local? Either way, there's all kinds of great bars and restaurants in downtown St. John's, and wherever you are, people need the help, especially after the pandemic. So support local. If you're looking to work out, look no further than Rope Walk Lane, Ryan Power Conditioning for strength and balance in the body and mind. I'm living proof that working out there has really put me in a positive spin for the winter time. I'm not just saying that. I'm working out for a reason, and I chose Ryan Power, and he's really, really making a difference. It's not just physical, it's mental. So check it out, Power Conditioning on Rope Walk Lane. Live, Laugh, Lube, Mr. Lube, 2 locations. Torbay Road and Kenmount Road, and of course, True Hockey. Take what's yours. Folks, I'll be back in just a few days. Next week, we have Andrew Shaw. The week after that, Darren Langdon and Darren Colburn. Should be pretty exciting. Keep enjoying it. Happy hockey season. The playoffs are coming soon, and I will catch you on the rebound.